Hey, welcome back to the Happy, Healthy, and Wealthy Therapist podcast. Today, we are talking about something that doesn't get nearly enough airtime in the entrepreneur space. And honestly, I'm a little surprised by that because I know I am not the only one who has experienced this. We are talking about rejection, disappointment, and for some of you, rejection sensitive dysphoria, which is a whole other layer that I can't wait to get into. Whether you've had a launch that flopped, a discovery call that ghosted you, a pitch that went nowhere, or a client who just walked away, this episode is for you. Because here is the thing. We talk a lot about strategy and marketing and raising your rates, but nobody talks about what happens after you put yourself out there and it doesn't go the way you hoped. And I think that's where a lot of people, a lot of high achieving people who are so used to doing well, just kind of quit, right? They just kind of give up on it and think like, oh, well, I guess this isn't for me. And I guess I just shouldn't have done that. And I don't want that for you. So let's get into it. First, I just want to name something. Disappointment is a normal, unavoidable part of building a business. Full stop. And that might sound obvious, but I think a lot of us, especially therapists who are used to being the helper, the steady one, the competent expert in the room, are completely blindsided by how personal rejection feels when it's your business, your offer, your face on the sales page. Like if a client says no to weekly therapy, you can usually separate that from yourself of, okay, it's not a good fit, or I wasn't really a specialist for what they were looking for anyway, or I didn't really want to see them at 4:30 anyway. But when someone says no to a course you poured your heart into, or a coaching program you built from your own lived experience, that hits really differently. And here's why. Entrepreneurship requires a level of personal exposure that most of us weren't prepared for. And you're not just selling a service, you're selling your ideas, your story, your credibility, and your vision. And that's incredibly vulnerable. So, the first thing I want you to hear is if rejection in business feels more intense, more personal, more devastating than you expected, that is not at all weakness or, ineptitude of you can't do this. It's a completely logical response to the fact that you cared, right? You cared about something and you put yourself out there, and that takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery and the gut punch when it doesn't land, doesn't lead to sales, doesn't lead to clients, doesn't lead to whatever. Like that's real. When I think about my first launch, the very first time that I decided I want to launch a coaching business, I want to help other therapists charge premium fees, offer therapy intensives so that they earn more, they work less, their clients experience these massive breakthroughs in sessions. Like I poured so much into it. I did a lot of things I was uncomfortable with, like starting my own Facebook group from scratch, starting an Instagram from scratch, going live in my Facebook group and weekly, and trying to pretend like I was eloquent and knew what I was talking about, and I was the obvious choice of who wanted to work with me and why. So truly, like I thought I was ready, right? I was like, on paper, can I record some videos? Can I put a Zoom link together of where we're going to have our group coaching calls? Can I put together the sales page? Like, yeah, absolutely. I can do all of those logistic things. And I was really proud of the work that I cranked out. And ultimately, I did get 5 new therapists into my brand new beta cohort of my coaching program. And so, like, that felt good in the sense of, okay, it wasn't total silence, right? It wasn't total silence. I got 5 people to join, and that was fantastic. But it really still wasn't what I expected. I expected more people to want to sign up. I expected more people to want to work with me. I expected it to be like, oh my God, where has this program been living all my life? So the story that my brain immediately told me was the fact that more people didn't sign up, the fact that it wasn't easier to get these sales. It must be something about me, not about my marketing, not about the timing, which I launched my first coaching program in July 2023. So right in the middle of summer, which in theory is when everyone's traveling and not many people are even checking Facebook or whatever it is, I didn't think it was a matter of timing. I didn't think it was a matter of messaging. I thought it was about me. Like, okay, well, I only got 5 people, so clearly I'm not cut out for this. And maybe I just shouldn't do it. And that was just the first thing that I've launched. There's been lots of other things I've launched in the past 3 years of running my coaching business where even like a $29 offer, I'm like, why are other people not joining so much? Or even the first retreat that I held, quote unquote, only three people signed up for. Like, it is so easy to take it personally when something doesn't go the way that we want or the way we would have hoped it. But that is the trap, right? And it's the one that I want to help you get out of today. This is something back in December 2025. I did a VIP in-person coaching day with my coach, who we'd only been working together for like 6 months at this point, but I knew I was going to work with her long term. And I was like, I have to peel back this mask that I'm wearing about I'm always fine and like everything's great. And yeah, I'm ready to just keep pushing forward. I was like, I need to be a lot more vulnerable with her about what comes up for me personally when things aren't going the way that I expect. And what we talked about as we're walking through New York City and it's like 20 degrees and it's freezing and we're sniffling and trying to enjoy our hot coffees while talking business and mindset. And I told her, like, it does feel personal when something doesn't go well. And, it can still go amazingly. It can still lead to sales, lead to clients. But if it doesn't, if I don't knock it out of the park, it feels like rejection. And she really helped me remember and clarify that that's not actually what's going on. Like, things strategy wise are working, but my brain tells me that it's me because of my history of CPTSD, because I was bullied in middle school, because I had so many very real experiences of rejection that my parts, my system, my brain is just prone to look for, where is it my fault? What should I have done better? I'm clearly just not likable. And she gave me this feedback of like, that you're really magnetic and you attract a lot of people, right? I'm like, no, that's clearly not true. And part of my work in 2026 from a mindset side that is, it's both therapeutic, it's a part of my therapeutic work that I've been working on, but it's also helping my business, is to embrace that I'm really good at what I do. And people do pay to work with me over someone else. And that feels really hard to say as someone who struggled with bullying and physically and emotionally abusive parents. Like, there's just so much that doesn't feel true about that. And yet, again, this is the biggest thing that gets in most of our ways is I'm going to be rejected and I can't let that happen. So either I self-sabotage or I take longer than I want or need to. But again, this is what we're going to shift out. So when I'm talking about like rejection and disappointment, obviously there's this aspect of us being high achievers and us being very intelligent. Like, all of us at least have masters. Some of us have doctorates. Some of us have multiple degrees. But now I want to talk about something more specific. And if this resonates with you, I want you to hold on to it, because understanding it really changed things for me too. So, rejection sensitive dysphoria, or RSD, is commonly associated with ADHD, but it can also show up in folks with anxiety, trauma histories, or other neurodivergent presentations as well. And here's what it is if you have not heard: it is an intense emotional response, often described as almost physical, to the perception of rejection, failure, or falling short of a standard. And the key word there is perception. You don't even have to actually be rejected. It's the anticipation of possible rejection that is enough to trigger RSD. So for entrepreneurs, RSD is kind of a nightmare fuel situation, because entrepreneurship is literally a series of putting yourself out there, waiting, and not always getting the response you hoped for. Some signs that RSD might be showing up for you in your business are these. You hit send on an email and immediately feel dread, like something bad's about to happen. I know I felt that so many times. You refresh your sales dashboard obsessively during and after a launch. Hello, if you listened to my behind the scenes of my most recent therapy intensives launch, you would know that I was frequently refreshing that sales dashboard. One negative comment or one no completely eclipses 5 yeses, right? Oh my God, I remember experiencing that since school, right? Like, why did I get a 98 and not a 100? Beat myself up for the 2 points lost as opposed to the 98 points won. You avoid launching, pitching, or posting because the possibility of silence or rejection feels unbearable. Yes, I have in so many ways been like, oh, I'll do that next year. Oh, I'll do that next time because I'm afraid that something's not going to go well. I'm afraid that something's not going to be successful and that I'll have wasted time or wasted money or worse, both. If after something doesn't work, you spiral into I should just quit territory fast. Oh, I have been here so many times. You all may have heard in other podcast episode, there was a point in 2024, like late 24, early 25, where I literally did think about quitting this coaching business because things weren't going the way that I needed them to go. Not even the way I wanted them to go, but financially for what I was spending on ads and different team members, like a setter and a closer and things like that. Like, I just literally was not in the financial place I needed to be in, much less wanted to be in. And I thought about quitting. And the more I actually had conversations with my coach about that, the more it was a problem of like, it's not the work I'm doing that's a problem. It's the way I'm doing the work. That's the problem. So again, the way I was doing the work made everything feel like a personal rejection compared to, the work that I was actually able to put out there and the way that I was helping therapists. If you personalize everything, right? Slow email response, they hate you. No sales on day one, your offer's trash. Someone unfollows, you replay everything you said lately trying to figure out what you did wrong. So if any of that feels familiar, I want to be clear, I'm not diagnosing anyone with anything today, but I am a therapist and I can tell you that I see this pattern constantly in the therapists and entrepreneurs that I work with. And there's a really interesting reason for that. Like I've said, therapists are often high achievers who have been trained to read rooms, anticipate needs, and manage relational dynamics at a really sophisticated level. If you also grew up and have CPTSD, you're even more advanced. And when you put that skill set into entrepreneurship, where you're constantly reading the room of your audience, your analytics, your open rates, and then something doesn't land, that hyper awareness turns on you, and it can feel devastating. But the good news here is that understanding that this is a nervous system response, not a sign that you're not cut out for this, changes everything about how you can work with it, right? Just because what's like one of the cheesy things we say in therapy, and especially those of us who follow some ACT principles, it's like, it's not the thing that's the problem, it's the reaction to the thing that's often the problem. Like, even if it was something about you of, okay, I'm not marketing well enough, or I seemed bored talking about my own offer. Those are skills that can be improved, sure. And it's probably an overestimate how much we are putting the full onus of why something didn't go the way we wanted it to on ourselves. So either way, we can work on things. So here's the clinical piece I want to offer you because I do think is genuinely useful. When you experience rejection or disappointment, especially if you have any history of emotional sensitivity, trauma, or perfectionism, your nervous system can interpret that as a threat. Not metaphorically, actually, like the alarm bells go off inside of our head. Those of us who are trauma therapists know this, like our amygdala is on fire. And when you're in that threat response, your brain does something really unhelpful. It hunts for evidence that the threat is real. So it replays the launch, it reviews the email, it zooms in on one sentence that maybe didn't land right. It compares you to someone who seems to be doing better. It builds a case against you. And this is not any kind of character flaw. And again, this does not mean that it is true. This is just your brain trying to protect you by understanding what went wrong. But it's doing it in a way that isn't actually helpful or accurate. And so here's what I've learned to do in my own therapy. It's something I'm still working on in my own therapy, as well as in my coaching sessions. And it's what I teach my coaching clients and, my therapy clients too, when I'm in that spiral. Step 1, name it as a nervous system response, not a truth. When I notice I'm in that loop, I say to myself, okay, my nervous system is activated right now. What I'm feeling is real. What my brain is telling me is a story, not a fact. That separation for me even matters so much. To say, right, this is a story. It is a story based on, my therapist uses a lot of IFS, so we talk a lot about parts. So my parts have stories about when we were 7 and doing something, did mean something catastrophic, or when I was 15 and had a question in class and how that was responded to by a teacher. Like, your parts are going to tell you stories, and they may be factual in the sense of like something did happen, but any of this meaning making, these are usually, stories, not actually facts, right? What does it actually mean if something didn't go the way I wanted, or if something is a perceived failure? It's helpful just to slow it down and remember that stories and facts are not always exactly the same. Step 2, do not make any decisions while dysregulated. And this is huge. Do not cancel your launch. Do not rewrite your entire offer. Do not send a panicked email to your list. Do not quit. Give yourself a window, usually like 24 to 48 hours, before you take any action based on the spiral. You all, if you listened to my behind the scenes of a launch episode, would have heard how many times I was checking in with my coach of, okay, sales slowed down. What can we do? As opposed to sales slowed down. Should I just end today? Even if, maybe a part of me did want to just end early, to be able to talk something out with someone who gets it, who knows how I think, who knows why, roughly why. I haven't shared all of my therapy stories with her, but she knows roughly why my brain thinks the way that it does. Having the ability to just talk that out with someone instead of being alone in it and feeling ashamed in it helps me to, number 1, validate, hey, everything's working. Everything's still doing great. Nothing is broken here. Yeah, there's some things that we can tweak. There's some things that we can edit to improve it, but do not make those decisions alone. Give yourself some time to come back into your regulation window, right? Those of you who know polyvagal theory, we want to be in our little green ventral vagal state before just acting on something. Step 3, come back to data, not feelings. And this is where my therapist brain actually helps me as an entrepreneur. I ask myself, what do I actually know right now versus what am I interpreting? One slow day of not making sales, not having discovery calls booked, doesn't mean that your launch failed. One person saying no doesn't mean no one will say yes. A small email open rate doesn't mean your content is bad. Come back to the actual data, not the story your brain is spinning. That is, again, why I time and time again refer to my spreadsheets as my emotional support spreadsheets, because I can look at data, I can see what's working, I can see how I'm comparing to industry standards of sales page views and open rates and click rates and ad spend, and remember, okay, yeah, I'm doing great, right? Could it be better? Sure. And I am doing great, even if my brain is saying, no, you're not. Step 4, external regulation. And this is the one most people skip. So when you're dysregulated, you need co-regulation. That might be calling a friend, venting to your therapist. And yes, every therapist entrepreneur should have a therapist. It might be your mastermind group or a business coach or someone who can just generally hold the bigger picture when you've lost it. You are not meant to process any of this stuff alone, right? This is just how the nervous system works, is we need to be able to talk with people who actually get it. I can't tell you how often I've heard from people, like I've tried to talk with my spouse, or I tried to talk with someone in my group practice, or I tried to talk to someone who doesn't know what it's actually like to hold this type of business, and it wasn't helpful, right? They might say something with the very best of intentions in mind of, well, maybe you should just stop, or it seems like it's stressing you out. Why don't you just quit? Why don't you just go back to therapy? And it's not that that's not valid, right? And it's well intentioned, but a lot of us are choosing to try and successfully scale outside of therapy for a reason. And there is plenty of space for all of us. We just need to be able to talk with people who get the ups and downs of this type of entrepreneurship. And so that's where I really value shared spaces where I can connect with people. A lot of that happens in masterminds. A lot of it happens in even one-to-one business coaching. Okay, so I want to now talk about what rejection actually means in business, because I think we've been taught a really distorted version of it. We treat a no like it's a verdict, like it's the market telling us something final and definitive about our worth or our ideas. But here's the reframe I want you to sit with. In business, a no is almost always information, not a verdict. So when someone doesn't buy your course or sign up into your coaching program or whatever it is, it could mean the timing wasn't right for them. The messaging didn't speak to their specific pain point. They hadn't seen enough of you yet to trust the investment. The price point wasn't accessible to them right now. They were interested but got distracted and the window closed. They actually weren't the right person for your offer, which is fine. It could literally mean 100 things that have nothing to do with the quality of what you built. Now, sometimes a launch underperforms because something in the strategy needs adjustment, and that's also just information. It is not a character indictment, it's feedback you can work with. And that's why with my coach during my last launch, I was looking at one of my spreadsheets of like, it seems like our sales, not our sales page, but our checkout page isn't performing as well as it did last time. So what might we tweak? What might we change? Is there something we did different from launch to launch, right? I treat it as information and something that I can get feedback on and get tweaked compared to, oh my God, this offer is just not going to sell anymore and everyone hates me or no one wants to buy it or I'm just being annoying or whatever that might be. So I want to tell you something that took me a while to really internalize, which is the most successful entrepreneurs I know fail more than the average person. Not less, more. Because they're in the game more. They're putting things out more. They're taking more swings. The only way to never be rejected is to never try. And I don't think that's the life any of us actually want. A lot of us believe in trying and pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zone. But then when we do it and it doesn't lead to an immediate win, that's when we start to wonder, did I just waste my time? Do I suck? Is there space in, the coaching or the retreat world for me? And yes, right? Like, as cheesy as it is to say, because I know as a therapist you've heard it, failure is information. But if you never try, then you never get the chance to fail, then you don't know, right? If it's your offer or is it the pricing or is it the timing or whatever it is. Coming back to my own example of in October 2025, I hosted my own, my first retreat on my own. And honestly, like I did it because I was excited about it and I wanted to do it and I want to do it again in the future. But I did not have the time and capacity that I really needed to do marketing a retreat justice. And so it was really easy for me to back then to think about, clearly no one wants to do this and clearly this sucks and I should just stop and I should only do these offers. But the number of people who are like, oh my God, tell me the next time you're doing a retreat, like the next one I want to go on, or tell me the next time you're doing your mastermind. Like people are still interested in the offer. Oftentimes it is the timing, whether it's I signed up for too many coaching programs at once, or I spent too much money on retreats this year, or whatever it is. But I would never know that. I would never get that feedback if I didn't put offers out there and if I didn't learn. So the question here really becomes, how do you build the kind of relationship with rejection where it doesn't knock you out of the game every time? Because that is the real skill, not avoiding rejection, but learning to move through it faster. So let me give you some really concrete things that have helped me and that I teach my coaching clients. Number one, celebrate the attempt, not just the outcome. This sounds really cheesy, but it generally and genuinely rewires things. After every launch, every pitch, every scary post, I acknowledge the fact that I did it, regardless of what happened after. You sent the email, that's a win. You got on the sales call, that's a win. You showed up, that's a win. The outcome is not fully in your control, but the action is. Number two, create a rejection log. And I know that maybe sounds terrible, but hear me out. When I started keeping track of rejections and then what happened next, I noticed a pattern. Rejections were almost never the end of the story. That person who said no to the group coaching program signed up 3 months later. That launch that felt slow ended up converting better than one I'd been more confident about. The log helps you see the longer arc, which your nervous system absolutely cannot see when you are in the middle of it. So again, this is where I love tracking literally everything so I can get out of my head and just feel confident, continue moving forward. Number three, shrink the gap between attempt and attempt. One of the best antidotes to rejection sensitivity is momentum. The longer you wait between putting yourself out there, the bigger each individual attempt feels, and the more devastating a no becomes. If you're only pitching once every few months or once a year, every pitch carries enormous weight. But if you are consistently showing up, one no loses some of its power because there's another attempt already in motion. And to combine that with strategy, because this one is a little bit mindset, to combine that with strategy, there's such a thing as live launching something as well as having something in evergreen format. So I, for example, live launch my Therapy Intensives Academy program usually 2 to 3 times a year, but I also have it running in evergreen. I have ads that run to it. I have a recorded webinar that leads to a sale for the program. So there's still sales happening in the background, even if I'm not live launching, because like those are also, I mean, it's an attempt that I do in the sense of I had to record it. I have to promote the free trading. I have to promote lots of different things like that. But right, it means when this launch that I just had, even though I wish 50 people had enrolled, it makes it land a little softer when I got 37, because I'm like, well, I know this is not my only chance to get people to say yes, right? I've got other things in place. Number 4, know your come back to center practice. For me, it's movement. It's a walk, it's a workout, something that just gets me out of my head and back into my body. For you, it might be journaling or calling a specific person or sitting outside for 20 minutes. You should know what this is for you before you need it, not be trying to figure it out in the middle of a spiral. So literally that might be putting into your calendar, call this person, do this activity, whatever it is, but make sure you have that to return to. I was very intentional about when I scheduled my exercise classes during my launch because I knew I didn't want to be checking my computer or my phone all day long. So I had to intentionally set time aside to get away from the screen. Number 5, work with someone. I truly believe that entrepreneurs, especially therapist entrepreneurs, need support structures. a coach, a mastermind, a peer group, someone who can help you hold the bigger picture, reality check your spiral, and celebrate the wins you're too activated to notice. This isn't optional for me anymore. It is essential. As much as I have gone back and forth over the years of seeing business coaching as an expense, right? Generally, I do believe it is an investment, truly. It's not just a cheesy thing I tell myself. But yeah, there is a part of my mind that's like, oh, but I could save X amount per month. But I need that person. I need that long-term support person to help me with it. My friends won't get it. My partner won't get it. Like, I need someone who can actually hold the business in a way that, she truly gets it and she really gets me. And Kim, if you are listening, I love and appreciate you so much. Okay, so let me land this plane. If you took nothing else from today, rejection is survivable. Disappointment is survivable. And neither one of them means what your brain is trying to tell you they mean at 2 a.m. when you're spiraling through your analytics. You built something, you put it out there. That is incredibly brave work. And the willingness to keep doing it, even after the hard days, is the thing that actually separates people who build the practice they want from the people who stay stuck. I'm rooting for you, like, genuinely. If today's episode hit home for you, I would love to hear about it. You can find me on Instagram at Amanda KB Coaching. And if you are in a place where you're ready to build that support that actually supports your life, where the strategy and the mindset piece are getting worked on together, I'd love to have a conversation about what that could look for you. I have some openings for my mastermind in the fall. I will link everything in the show notes if you want to learn more about that. But thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next episode.